example of creating an interactive weekly chart for analyzing sales of different categories by day over 1 week. The large, daily, external bars on the chart represent the sum of small intraday bars of sales quantities for each category. On one combined chart, we can visually analyze data for each day of the week. This chart is very convenient and often used in practice. It effectively visualizes data. Create a table for filling in the source data. Table structure. Column headers are the days of the week, and row headers are the data categories for each day. To start creating the chart template, fill the table with random data. The row titled Top contains a formula that sums all categories' intraday values for each day of the week. The row titled Down simply contains 0 values. This is necessary for the combined and functional design. The row titled Cursor Y will later contain a conditional logic formula. We will write the formula when connecting the source table to the database, but for now we simulate the values of the logic formula. One day, Wednesday, contains the final value, while all other days have a data not available error. Select all the values in the table to create the combined chart template. Choose the tool Insert Charts 2D Column Clustered Column. We see that the default chart structure is not suitable for our task. Reverse the chart structure using the Switch Row and Column button. Now the data structure on the chart is organized according to our task requirements. For the data series titled Top, change the chart type to a line graph. Similarly, do the same for the data series Down, changing the chart type to a line graph. For the data series Cursor Y, change the chart type to scatter. As a result, unnecessary auxiliary vertical and horizontal coordinate axes have been added to our chart template. Disable them using the Change Chart Type tool. In the Combo section, uncheck the boxes in the secondary axis column for all data series, and click the OK button. By clicking the button with a large plus sign in the upper right corner of the chart template, bring up the drop-down menu. Uncheck unnecessary options to clear the template of excess information and give it a minimalist design style. Now select the top data series and check the last option in the drop-down menu up and down bars. Next, bring up the additional parameter settings window, format data series, and set the gap width between bars to 3%. Adjust the colors and gradient fill parameters for all bars. Pay attention to the color codes. Be sure to use the color transparency settings to reveal all the data visualizations behind the daily bars of the chart. On the new sheet dashboard, set a black fill background for the entire sheet and create a large rounded rectangle shape for the chart panel design. Use gradient fill for the rounded rectangle shape, as well as for the border line. Transfer the combined weekly sales chart template to the new dashboard sheet and size it according to the dimensions of the rounded rectangle shape. Customize the design of the interactive weekly sales analysis chart. Remove the line and make the chart template background transparent. Make the line graph series top transparent. Similarly, for the series down, disable the line from visibility. For the series top, add data label elements at the top. Adjust the color and font size of the labels. It's time to work on the cursor design for the weekly sales chart. Select the data series cursor Y and add the rarely used option error bars from the drop-down menu from the plus sign. But add it not with the checkbox, but with the drop-down sub-menu and the option More Options. Note that by default, horizontal X error bars are added, but we are interested in vertical ones. Therefore, select Y error bars from the drop-down list of Excel's current selection tool group. Next, in the Additional Parameter Settings window, error bar options in the Error Amount section. Select the Custom option and click the Specify Value button to specify the reference to the range of values in the source table in the negative error value row cursors Y that is processing $B $10 H $10. The first field positive error value should be completely empty. Then select the horizontal bars with a single mouse click and press the Delete key on the keyboard to delete them. It is also very important in the Additional Parameter Settings window error bar options. In the vertical error bar section, to select the direction option minus. Set the error bar line width to 125 points and give the cursor its own special gradient fill that will highlight the cursor against the background of the daily bars. In the cursor's gradient fill settings, the colors should also be semi-transparent to not obscure the visibility of the intraday bars of the weekly sales chart. Now select the cursor Y data series and add data label elements at the top. After that, right-click on the cursor data label area, and from the context menu that appears, select the Change Data Label Shapes option. A drop-down menu with the Data Label Shapes panel will appear. There, choose the rectangle rounded corner shape to style the cursor data label. The font size of the cursor labels should match the font sizes of the other data labels on the chart. To change the sizes, you need to double-click on the label shape. And immediately apply gradient fill and adjust the sizes. The cursor series marker itself can be hidden from view by disabling its background, fill, and border. To enhance the design of the sales chart, change the color of the horizontal axis X lines. Now we need to style the intraday bars of the data categories. But to access them with a single mouse click, we will temporarily hide the top data series. To do this, use the Select Data tool and uncheck the top series to temporarily disable it for accessing the intraday bars of the categories. The external daily bars of the top series are on the top visualization layer above the category bars inside each day of the week. The daily bars are semi-transparent but prevent us from clicking to select the intraday category bars. We can access them only from the drop-down list of all chart elements. Therefore, temporarily disable the large daily, external bars and open access to the small inner category bars simultaneously for each day of the week. On the Resources worksheet, we already have gradient fills prepared on rectangle shapes for each intraday bar. At the very bottom, you can download the interactive weekly sales chart template, which also contains rectangle shapes with prepared gradient fills on the Resources sheet. If you are creating your template from a video tutorial, all gradient color codes are shown on the screen. Use the pause button on the YouTube player. Reconnect the daily external bars of the top series. We have created a cursor for convenient visual analysis on the weekly sales chart. Now it's time to make it interactive. It's also time to connect the database to the source table, since we are almost finished developing the weekly sales chart template. On the data worksheet, there is a table with real sales data for all categories throughout the year. We will combine all the table values into one database using a named range and call it My Data for connection. Select the cell range A1I366 and in the name box input field, specify the name for this range My Data. Without deselecting the area, proceed to create a pivot table, but in the parameters, instead of the range reference, specify the name of the newly created database My Data in the table range input field. In the second input field location, specify the reference to cell A3 on a pre-created worksheet named Control. In the Pivot Table Builder, use the data from the day field as rows and all sales categories as values. We will need 2 such pivot tables, so copy the already created table to cell A17. Now, based on the second copied pivot table, create 3 data slicers. For the 3 fields month, week, and day, these will be our interactive control elements for the weekly sales chart. Create a new slicer style template. First, duplicate any existing slicer style template and then modify it. Style the slicer design and set the fill background colors for the on and off buttons. Apply this style template to all 3 slicers. Move all slicers to the dashboard sheet and set their correct positioning. Disable the display of the header panel for the day switching slicer in the slicer settings, accessed from the right-click context menu. Connect the source table to the database through formulas with references to the pivot tables. The cursor row contains a logical formula referencing the first pivot table of 3. The formula checks if the current day of the week is selected. If yes, it returns the final sum value of all categories, the same as for the daily bar. If not, the formula returns a data not available error. To get the intraday values for sales categories, refer to the second pivot table as 17. In the formula arguments, specify the corresponding references to the row and column names. The values in the formula arguments for connection to the pivot table should be of text type. Therefore, use concatenation of an empty string with the address reference. Test the dashboard in action. Now our weekly sales chart has become interactive. Set the same size for the cursor label shapes for all daily bars. Copy the dashboard sheet to create a new version with a cooler design. Now use monochrome colors in blue shades without gradient fills for the intraday bars. Naturally, temporarily disable the daily bars of the top series first. The codes of all monochrome colors are on the screen and on the resources sheet. Also, reduce the gaps between intraday bars to 0. Add 2 text blocks to create a menu for switching between hot and cool design styles of the weekly sales chart. To make the text blocks an interactive menu, you need to set links for each block to the corresponding sheet. To do this, right-click on the text block and from the context menu that appears, select the link option. In the window that appears, specify the sheet and cell address of the link path within the Excel document. It is better to specify links to cell C3 to hide the Excel cursor behind the visualization block when switching between hot and cool dashboard designs. Reconnect the weekly bars and proceed to test the interactive weekly sales chart in hot and cool data visualization designs. Everything works well. At the very bottom, you can download the ready-to-use interactive weekly chart template. On the datasheet, fill in your sales data and use the visualization block for your dashboards, presentations, or business data analysis. This is a really useful chart template and often used in practice. It is convenient to work with and analyze the current situation on 2 time periods levels within the week and within the day simultaneously. This is the main competitive advantage of the combined chart that can make your reports and presentations ergonomic. Interesting fact. More than 80% of investments in the decision-making process used presentations with data visualization.